Traveling with kids doesn't have to be chaotic. If you're planning a trip to Europe and you want your trip to be more meaningful and less stressful, then I've got a great video for you. Today I'm going to be focusing on 5 tips on how to travel more mindfully with your family and how to get the most out of your next European vacation. Hi, I'm Ryan, a dad, and there's nothing that I love more than planning trips with my family. I've spent dozens of hours planning trips to Europe, and I believe that I've found a better way to travel, a way that allows you to connect more closely with your family, to plan simpler itineraries, and to get more out of your trips to Europe. So let's get into these tips. My first tip really focuses on slow travel. What I really mean by that is that we need to slow down and intentionally plan where we're going to go when we travel. So instead of planning these European vacations that visit, say, 5 cities in 2 weeks, what I'd suggest is that we actually slow down and intentionally choose the cities we're going to visit. So in a 2-week trip, I would actually recommend that you only visit maybe 2 to 3 cities and that you spend more time there. What this does for you is it allows you to get to know the local vibe, the local flavor. You get to actually see the same streets each day, and you really get to slow down. As I traveled to Europe, by slowing down and spending more time in each of these cities, it's going to allow you to really live like a local and to be immersed in that culture, instead of feeling like you're running from one tourist destination to another. So if you've traveled in the past without kids to Europe, you know that the pace of European travel can be rather quick. You move from one destination to another. But what I've really found that can be incredibly enjoyable when traveling with your family is making sure to slow down and build in time to do activities with your children. For us, when we were last in Paris, it's amazing how many small urban parks you can find and playgrounds that you can find right in the heart of the city. So we made sure to build in plenty of time in our trips where we plan to purposely go to a park. And we intentionally knew that we'd be heading to that park. And a lot of our travel was actually walking these historic streets, seeing the historic architecture, and making our way specifically to the park. That was our destination. And once we got there, we made sure that we were mindful and that we actually spent the time there. And what that allowed for us is our son had fun. He enjoyed the time. He got to play on the playground equipment. He got to actually, hear the local kids speaking French. And we got to watch our son interact in Paris. And as you scanned the horizon, you saw those beautiful historic buildings. And if we hadn't slowed down, we may have rushed through that experience. We may not have really connected with our son, connected with our family. Oh, and speaking of which, if you're a grandparent, a lot of these European cities also have beautiful benches that are right on the edge of the playground. So when we were traveling in France, our in-laws that were along with us, they were able to take a little break, sit on a bench, watch their grandson play. They had a great time, and so did we. So that's what I really mean by slowing down. It allows you to connect with your family and have so much less stress because you're not just trying to go from one destination to another. The destination is the day. It is the process of walking to that park, spending time with your children, with your family. And that's something that we've been so grateful to be able to figure out. So that's tip number 1. Really slow down. Make sure that you spend time in these cities and don't try to do too much. Okay, tip number 2. This one I found to be really valuable. And what I'm thinking about here is really creating rituals that you and your family are going to follow each day. So for us, one of the things we really love to do when we visit Europe is we love to have times in the morning, maybe the evening, you'll kind of find the flow of when this works, where we really have kind of gratitude circles or times where we really intentionally talk about what everyone in the family has loved from that day of travel. So let's say you do this every evening when you're eating dinner or unwinding at the end of the day. You can all sit around, reminisce about the day, and go around the circle and really the parents can share, the grandparents can share, and the children can share. And it's amazing to see what people are thankful for, what they most enjoyed. What this does for you is it allows you to really remember what you had done that day and to see what excited other people and to really connect to the family. This is how memories are made. This is how we remember these trips for a lifetime. So I think those rituals of setting up specific times in your day where everyone goes around and communicates and talks about what they're grateful for and what they're enjoying can be so powerful. Tip number 3. I think this one's a big one for traveling with families. Don't overpack your day. So it's easy when you plan these trips to really have in your mind that you're going to do so much, you're going to see so many different things, and especially when you get to some of these European cities, there's just so many amazing art museums, galleries, squares, churches, just so much to see. But I think one key thing is really making sure that we created an itinerary that's going to work for a family. I think it's so much more valuable to spend your time focused on going to one key place that you'll go to and spending the rest of the day really slowing down and having more time to take in the city, to soak in the city. So you have that one museum. So for us, when we were visiting Paris, our son is young. We weren't going to take him, for instance, to the Louvre. That museum is far too large, would have been too busy, and I think it would have been kind of overwhelming. We would have had to leave quickly, or we would have had meltdowns. And so instead we chose to go to the Orangerie. That's where Monet's water lilies are. It's a smaller art gallery, really amazing to go to if you haven't been there. Highly recommend. And that's something that with a 5-year-old that they can handle. He could go in, he could see these amazing paintings that are in a museum that's specifically built for these paintings. And after that, we finished our museum and we were then able to have a much more relaxed pace. So we visited the Tuileries Gardens and we spent our time walking through the gardens. There's some playgrounds there, and there's actually carousels. Those are really sprinkled throughout a lot of Paris, and we made sure to take the time to stop and to let our son ride the carousels, to let him soak in the city. And again, we really felt like we could slow down and not feel like we were rushing from site to site, from place to place. Really feel like we got all that we could out of this European vacation. Treat these cities like you're going to come back, like you're going to visit again, and I think you'll get a lot more out of it. So another thing I think is important, thinking about not overpacking your day, is also building in time for long, leisurely lunches, for instance. So we'd often pick lunch to be a time where maybe in the morning we'd go to the playground and then we'd plan that we were going to go out to lunch. We'd pick a lunch spot ahead of time. We'd do some research on Google Maps. You can often find reviews there. I'd sort by the newest review, but from there we'd make sure to slow down. Lunch wasn't just something of trying to get food for us. It was a time to really be there as a family, to be part of the French culture, and to enjoy our time together. And I think that added so much. We also would make sure that we built in time, maybe in the mid-afternoon. If you're traveling during the summer, it can get pretty hot. You can get pretty tired because you're spending so much time on your feet. But we'd spend time in the afternoon where we knew we'd have intentional downtime. It's easy to hop on public transportation or walk and make your way back, where you spend some time resting in the middle of the afternoon, especially if it's hot out, so that then you'll spend that downtime and be able to have energy to go back out in the later afternoon or even evening after it starts to cool off, and you get back out in the city and really explore and keep everybody happy and healthy and avoid meltdowns, especially with those younger children. All right, so to tie all of that together with tip number 3 here, where we're not overpacking our day, I think the other thing is by having a slower schedule, it's going to allow for spontaneous exploration. It's going to allow you, if you suddenly are walking along a street You don't have to follow a rigid path. You might be walking and see down a road that just looks too appealing not to go down. And I know for us, we often have some of the best time, the most fun that we have on our vacations during this time that's not scheduled, where suddenly we're seeing a historic church that doesn't make it on the tourist top 10 list, but we're looking at this Gothic architecture without many people around, despite the fact that we're in a large European city. And I think some of those can be some of the best memories. They can be some of the best times that you look back on and, just say, remember that time we were exploring, maybe got lost a little bit and came upon a street performer that we didn't expect, or something else that's just magical that makes these trips really come alive. All right, so with that was tip number 3. Tip number 4 is focused around embracing the local flavors. And what I mean by that is really taking the time to live like a local, to try to become more connected with the neighborhood you're in. So circling back to that first tip we talked about of spending more time in these cities, what it's going to allow you to do is to find and locate where the local bakeries are, the local coffee shops, the local grocery stores, fruit stands. And by embracing this local culture, it allows us to really slow down our travels and to start to feel like you know your way around. And so by embracing these local flavors and having an accommodation that's centrally located, it allows us to, for instance, in the morning to go out to send my wife and I, when we were traveling with our in-laws, we found it was great. We could send one morning, myself and my wife, we would go out, we'd visit the local patisserie, pick up some pastries to go, and then we might swing around the corner to the fruit stand and pick up some local strawberries, bananas, other fresh fruit, and we'd be able to bring that back and then eat a wonderful breakfast there at the apartment before we get started on the day. Okay, so that was tip number 4, really embracing that local culture, really slowing down, taking the time to search out and enjoy local food with your family, avoiding the eating out 3 times a day and making sure that you're, having some meals back at your apartment, and really just taking advantage of these, grocery stores and bakeries and so much of what Europe has to offer. Tip number 5, capture moments, not just photos. What do I mean by this is that when you're traveling, it's so easy these days. We've all got our cell phones in our pocket, our cameras are right here. It's so easy to get kind of in this mindset of needing to capture every single moment and need to have your camera out at every single moment, especially when you're wandering through these historic European cities. It feels like every corner that you turn, every spot that you look, it's so easy to want to have your camera out continuously. But for me, when traveling with my son, my wife, and my in-laws, it's some of the best moments that we have are actually the ones where we put down the camera and intentionally don't take photos. So for instance, I might take a few photos when we arrive at the playground, but then I intentionally try to put that phone away, to put the camera down, and make sure that I'm there with my family, to be mindful and present. One thing that I think can be really helpful on these trips that really taps into the heart of mindful travel is you can actually take time as a family. You don't necessarily have to be meditators to do this, but you can take time maybe when you first arrive at a park, if there's a bench there where everybody sits down. If you can get the kids to do it too, I think it's great. You all can sit down on the bench, let your legs rest for a moment, and actually take a few intentional deep breaths. So you can all take some deep breaths in and release those breaths, and really just take a few moments before you start playing or start talking, where everybody just breathes. And sometimes you could pick You could pick and focus on just sounds. Can be kind of fun sometimes, where you're intentionally breathing together and just listening, just taking in the city, the square that you're in, wherever that might be. There's so many different sounds than what you'll hear at home. And by intentionally slowing down and listening to those sounds, it can become such a richer experience. Or another example is sight. You can, visually just scan around the city, the view that's in front of you, and spend, it doesn't have to be long, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, where you just sit together as a family and really, feel the city you're in and take the time to actually slow down and to be there as a family. It allows you to live in the moment and to be present and to really experience your European travel to such a more fulfilling degree. I think it really allows you to connect and to remember what you experienced, what you saw. So give that a try if that connects well with you. Well, I hope these tips have given you some things to think about as you plan your next family vacation. Maybe some of them connected with you, some of them may not have, but hopefully they give you some ideas of how, when we slow down and plan intentional travel, that we can get so much more out of these trips. If you would like, maybe in the comments, share some of the tips that you found that have helped you travel more mindfully with your family to get a better experience traveling with kids. And if these ideas resonate with you, then stick around, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I've got more videos coming on mindful family travel, travel destinations for families, gear reviews, gear specifically designed for families, and just overall tips on how to plan these wonderful family vacations so that we can all get out there and travel the world with our loved ones. So thanks so much. Appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next time.